Hello and welcome to another video for our Framing the News painting. My name is Eric, and today we're going to be talking about taking our underpainting and bringing it to our first level of a finished painting, or sort of pushing our underpainting to that next stage. We have a mixed palette here. Last video we talked about mixing a skin tone. I am going to be using some skin tone for this underpainting as I start moving through this. We have some light colors here. Last time I didn't show you the source material. This is the source material. We got my patient here getting that COVID test. I think I'm omitting the majority of these other nurses. I'm just interested in this nurse and him, this relationship here. I really like all of this transparent value structure on the sleeve. I think it's going to be an interesting challenge. And the glove as well. There is two areas of skin tone that I am going to be using my mixed skin tone, and I'm going to be trying to sort of blow out the back. I might change some of the value a little bit more dramatically to try and make it more engaging and interesting. Who knows? Maybe I will add another nurse as time comes, but we're gonna move on from here. So I'm using a series of flat brushes. Flat brushes are my favorite. It's like 1.5 inches. It's a 1/2 inch, and this is like a 1/4 inch. Most of what I'm going to be doing is going to be the 1.5 inch. I might break down into some smaller ones as I go. But this is the same palette I had from last time. I'm going to start to work in. So there are some structural things. I have this gray tone here that I mixed from my chromatic black, which was raw umber and ultramarine. But a lot of this is kind of washed out value back here. So I sort of had a yellow tint. I think I'm backing off that yellow tint for now. At least for this first layer. I don't think I really see as much of that as I maybe thought I did. Going more with that neutral gray. And we'll see where that takes me. I did come in and do a little bit of a sketch after my first pass. Probably noticed that there's a little bit more lines on top, especially within this guy here. Just a few minutes, nothing too dramatic or detailed. Just to make sure that my proportions are right. Maybe if there's some larger value structure shifts, placing those. Sort of just a tiered roof. I'm not going to do much with it for now. Overload a little bit of paint there. Just going to build up a light transition for now. Sort of a looser brush stroke. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with the background yet. Okay, so I'm going to continue that as I move down. So that's sort of the top here. I'm going back to front as usual. It's a little bit more refined from my drawing stage. There are some value shifts coming here as well. For now, I'm just going to try and get that layer of paint going. There's a vertical coming here. I had to re-sketch my hand. It wasn't in the perfect space. Just remember in your painting, every step you're trying to get a little bit closer. You're not trying to jump all the way and render the entire detail, because that's how you make a rushed, underdeveloped painting. Many thin layers is the best way of painting. Very forgiving. Make a mistake, come right back on top. Okay, basic space there. The scrub she's wearing is kind of odd. She's wearing a dark shirt and then a transparent value on top of that shirt. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to go about that, but I think that my first thing is going to be developing that dark value under, even though there is a transparent layer developed on top of that, which would be sort of the easier thing to render first. There is an area in the collar that still is exposed, which will actually work to my benefit, as I can develop that value, and then as I throw a transparent layer over it, as I move through here, it'll be easier to deal with. Make sure I know where I'm at though. So I think I am going to come in and develop a pretty dark value here. There were some value shifts that I had sketched on there. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to have to put this dark layer down first and paint transparent layers on top. So we're going to block her out here. The sort of transparent darker value. And once again, in the early stages especially, don't labor too long in one area. Keep moving. Alright, the glove is a little bit larger than what I thought, and then I'm going to try and do a little bit of that skin tone for you. I'm going to be switching to a little bit of a smaller brush here, 1/2 inch flat. Just mix a little bit of a lighter blue. Usually I mix with a palette knife. Just for a small section, you can do it with a brush. Just get the proportions of this a little bit better so I can start looking at it. That'll be a challenge too. Hands are difficult. Hands that are obscured by gloves and other things can be even more difficult. That's why when you draw from life, if you draw a model, when you're learning how to do that, you draw from a nude model, because it's easier to draw the nude form than a clothed form. Okay, kind of bright. This got washed out. It's not very pleasing right now, but that's all right. We're just doing that under layer. Clean it off. Okay, so now we're doing a little bit of skin tone here. So there's lots of value shifts, there's lots of detail, painting figures. This one is in a little bit of a profile, so it's not a straight-on portrait. But I am going to be looking a little bit at some value shifts, trying to find some highlights and some shadows. But mainly, how I approach portraits is from the middle. I'll try and develop sort of a medium value kind of everywhere, and then I'll look for the most bold highlights and the most bold shadows and try and develop those first. The other sort of caveat is hair and anything on top. If it's a large element, like the top of his head, you could block that out first, or you could save it, doesn't really matter. But hair that is like on facial hair, going over the skin, where you have transparent or patches of the hair where you can actually see the skin. Wait for that. Wait for that till after you paint a skin tone. But yeah, okay. So I'm coming in with a medium value. Bring this guy back up. And I did, as I said, sketch a little bit more exact of a space here. So right in the eye, cheekbone, I have a nice highlight there to develop that. The forehead's also pretty light. I like to come in with the skin first and then do the hair after. I've seen people do it both ways very successfully. But this way I can sort of work my way back into the skin, and if I can push the skin a little bit further than it needs to go, it's a little bit easier to control. Still a little bit dark. Okay, nice highlight there. Another highlight on the cheekbone. The ear is kind of going to be a mess, so I'm just going to keep working through. Something like that, like the ear, that has just a lot of detail. Kind of just come in and place it. Remember, many layers is better. Get that first thing going. My ear actually has a pretty dramatic shadow here, so I'm going to try and get a little bit of a darker value here pushed under. Might even be darker than that. Try to place one or two of the ear values too. Just to start thinking about it. Chin comes across. And as you can see, he does have a fair amount of facial hair, but I'm not going to worry about that at all. Darker for sure. And I didn't really change my brush, sort of a 1/2 inch flat here. Too dark, but that's alright. Remember that you can mute with gray or the black that you mixed. And you can mix directly on your canvas. It doesn't have to be a bunch of mixed things on your palette. Okay, so then we have a little bit of a neckline here coming down. That's his mask there. Pretty basic. Let me get her kind of blocked in too. She's got a beanie on. I'm not looking for perfection by any means. Can't reiterate that enough. A lot of people get frustrated and confused when you're looking at a very complicated thing. Human anatomy is a complicated thing. Just remember, every layer gets a little bit better. I'm not even like really thinking about too many facial features or anything at that point. In fact, some of the stuff on him probably isn't placed perfectly. He's got some hair coming down here. Try and just block it out for now. Got a dark beanie. Sometimes I'd recommend going up to a bigger brush for this too. Remember, you always want to use the largest brush you feel comfortable with. Saves time. If you find yourself working and you're filling space, thinking it's going kind of slow, you think about upgrading to a bigger size. All right, she's coming together. He's looking a little bit better. Do a little bit of a value shift on her mask. Just get sort of a shadow in the front here. Might even be lower than that. Just a little bit. Grab some white. So yeah, I think I am going to have to push a different value in the background. We'll see. White is not going to be the best option because her mask is white. There's going to be a fair amount of highlights from her clothing. So we're probably going to have to shift that. That's okay. Remember, it's your painting. At the end of the day, nobody sees the source material. You can decide what makes your painting better and go for it. As long as there's a reason you're doing it. So right now it's kind of hard to see the contrast of her mask on the background for sure. This is not placed great. Yeah, we'll see these background elements actually look okay. We have to mix up the color though. Okay, his clothing's pretty dark, so I'm just gonna come in with a second coat. Sometimes the best thing to do is just add another coat, even if it's not that that intricate. Actually, I'm gonna not upgrade, but get a little bit of a bigger brush here. It's easy to do. Always go for it. Speed up the process. This is the 1.5" flat, rather than just the 1/2 inch. That's his mask there. Trying to push opacity in the dark values. Depending on how you mix your dark value, you may have to put a couple more layers than you think to get dark when working from white. But a couple thin layers and you'll be getting there. So I'm not really trying to do any detail yet. Oh, now that I'm looking at it, it sort of has a collar. It's kind of like a hoodie. I might have to reframe that in my next stage. Okay. Some would say it's not really worth doing a second coat in the hair yet. Some would say you should do the hair first. Kind of just depends on your source material and how you're approaching the painting. I kind of just like to work on everything simultaneously, build everything up progressively. And usually for me, that gives me a more successful painting than if I come in and just try and work one area really intensely and then move to the next. Okay, we're getting close here. We have his mask. We have a couple facial features. Come in, place the eye real quick. There's the iris and the pupil. I think I'm just going to white it out for now. Then add on top of it. Just for now. Hers are actually pretty dark, but I'm just going to block it out with white for now. I think most of her values are a little bit of a deeper gray within the eye. But just to see it, just know what I'm looking at. Be able to see the composition a little bit better. Her neck's a little bit lumpy. Paint wasn't put on super thin. Alright, there we go. Just going around touching up one or two things. His mask is actually a blue. I might blow it out and make it white though. And that's actually kind of drawn incorrectly. Or planned in there incorrectly. Let's see here. So this was not perfectly placed. I'm now seeing some proportional things. I think I will go with a little bit of blue to help separate it. Might change it later, we'll see. Remember that even if proportional things aren't perfect, that's what's great about a painting. It's not a drawing. Sometimes in a drawing it's very difficult to reduce space or erase things that you've worked into. How the paper's stained. There's a lot of other things that can go wrong. Painting is very free, very easy to continue to work into. Here's his mask. There's some connection around his neck, but I'm not going to try and nail that yet. Yeah, last thing would be the sort of COVID thing going into his nose, but I'm not going to try and do that yet either. That's my first pass. In the next video, you're going to see me in a time lapse. working through this again, doing my next layer, starting to push independent values in kind of everywhere, but definitely in her arm, in the two faces, in the masks, and trying to make sure that the background is successful. I'm going to try and find a way of finding a color that accentuates the composition and doesn't confuse what I have going on, and helps this relation work better.